It's the wrong music, but who cares? We haven't come up with the music for the new show yet.
That's right.
Sue me.
So it's still a good music. I like it.
I still move to it. I can't
But
help
hold
it.
on. Technically, tonight is the Convene podcast. We're just introducing the new wellness community.
That's right.
This is true. This is very true.
Yeah.
It looks like we had a last minute addition, but he hasn't turned his camera on. So
Well,
I'm here.
Oh.
I'm getting coffee.
yeah.
All right.
He didn't pay attention to the be 10 minutes early comment.
Well, that's
But
why
that's
you
fine.
should have told him be 20 minutes early.
He's too big time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
All right. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Wednesday night podcast, the Convene podcast. But actually tonight, we're going to introduce the mental wellness community. And I want to talk about this for a minute before we get everybody to introduce themselves and give Josh just a chance to finish making his coffee. So he's on when we do that. Mental wellness. Why mental wellness? Well, a lot of the stuff that we do inside of Convene, believe it or not, has to do with mental wellness. And we'll talk about this a little bit more in depth, but I believe that, everybody in America is dealing with some sort of mental wellness or some sort of, anxiety, stress on the daily basis. I heard a stat today that if you go to our youth, 52% or more are in some sort of mental health counseling, 52%. And that's, over half of our youth is receiving some sort of counseling. Well, if 52% are receiving that type of counseling, how many are not able to get that type of counseling and may need it as well? So it's really a very important topic. When we first started Convene Communities, people actually came to me quite often and said, "Hey, is Convene a mental health site, a mental wellness site?" Because a lot of the interviews and a lot of the things that we were doing, the different seminars and everything had to do with the mental wellness. So I thought it was good because we get on our calls, our team calls, and a lot of our calls and things that we do actually have to do with the mental wellness topic takes over by the end of the call amongst our team. So we really felt like going into 2024, this was a great topic, a great community that we're going to bring back. Now, tonight, I have this great group of men. The last week was the women. Doc was on here with the women, and they ran the show. So this week, we brought on the men, and we're going to talk about mental wellness for a little bit as it is to us as men, as husbands, as parents, as coaches, as teachers, as veterans. We're going to kind of hit all those topics as we go through. And you're going to see that there's a lot of topics that we can go through. And then towards the end, I'll talk about how we're going to go into 2024 and we're going to set up the mental wellness podcast that is separate from this call. It's going to be all about mental wellness. You notice that I'm calling it mental wellness. I'm going to pose this question to you guys here in just a minute. We're not calling this the mental health community. We're calling it the mental wellness community. And so as we go around and introduce ourselves, incorporate that in. Why do you think we're going to call it the mental wellness? For me, I am I do have a degree in counseling. I am a husband. I am a parent. I've been a coach. I am a veteran who's dealt with PTSD and still does deal with some of the loss of my friend Clark Beatty. And that's why we have Convene. So as we go around and talk about it, mental wellness to me is just that. Can we work on wellness? I think we spend too much time focusing on this term mental health. And so to me, being devil's advocate, I think some of, the talk about, 52 or more % of our kids are getting help with a counselor. That's because they're bombarded with mental health. And it bothers me. I think we should go. And another thing that bothers me when you talk about this is that in schools nowadays, we give them a mental health day off. Well, what does a mental health day off mean? Well, I'll tell you, we're amongst men. If you're a young boy, 13, 14, 15, what does that mean? That means you're going to get to stay home, play Xbox or PlayStation 2. Well, why not bring in some sort of skill or some sort of counselor, some sort of coach that gives you the ability to, work on coping skills, work on ways to, deal with anxiety. But Instead, we're going to send kids home and let the young men that we're trying to bring up play Xbox and or PlayStation or whatever. So that's just me. We'll go around the room. You can introduce yourself. We'll start with the Eugene Brown. How does this affect you, Eugene? And who are you?
Yeah, I don't know how it affects me other than to say that I see it all the time in school, and you see it with parents, you see it with kids, you see it everywhere you look, radio, television, you name it, you see it. I think people need to focus on managing themselves better, not getting so charged up. I think we live in an environment that fosters emotions, and your brain is always busy. And if you don't take time to slow down to be mentally well, then you might find that you might run into some problems. So it's a very, very important topic.
Yeah. Jeff, how about you?
Well, I want to make sure at some point we get back to what you just said about the mental wellness days, because I've got some experience directly with that with my high school kids in their civics projects. But we can get back to that. But much like yourself, you said, coach. I used to see it and still see it all the time as a coach. I see it in family, both close and through a distant family. I see it in just kids around the area and around sports. So moms, dads, friends, it's around. And the other thing I want to just mention before we get back to it again is, mental health has a negative connotation. Mental wellness can, but it can also be a positive thing. And it can be talked about as a positive, not just as a positive, like it's okay to talk about, but as a positive, being mentally well is a good thing, right? Similar to mindset, that's right. Having a positive mindset and a good mindset, it's kind of the same thing. So at least that's what I think.
Yeah. Giving people, I think we can focus on giving people tools, right?
Yep.
Helping people do it. Now, Josh, you've created as an influencer, it's your platform, really, honestly. And but it's your platform because it's stuff that you've gone through. And you and I have done a lot of podcasts together about this, and so that's why I'm glad you could come on tonight. But just talk about you and how it is personal to you.
Yeah, I think that just like you guys have said is, you see it in parenting, you see it in coaching, obviously being an athlete and coaching as well. You can see that in the conversations that people are having or you're having with the kids. You can see it in their eyes that, we've all just come through that, that frustrating couple of years of COVID. So, you throw that on top of the emotions, and since we're all men here and probably not all men listening, is how we were all brought up to not show emotion and what that does to our own mental psyche and our own mental thought process. And I think it's being talked about more and more mainstream, but we're not there. And I love what Jeff just said about, mental health almost seems like it's hey, we're kind of putting it in this box. Wellness is like an ongoing event or an ongoing, help, if you will. Hey, I'm working on my mental wellness. If I'm working on my mental health, it means it's just kind of in this box. And when I'm done, I can jump out of that box. Wellness I think it's a continuous thing to kind of get yourself better. It's almost like practice, the whole Allen Iverson thing. Like we're talking about practice, but
practice.
Well, we're talking about not a game, but we're talking about practice. But wellness, I think, is a practice. It's a stepping stone where you can say, hey, I know I need to start here, but my wellness journey is just I don't know that it ever, per se goes away. I think we all deal with it on a smaller scale. Some of us just, and like Eugene said, we manage it better than others. But you also have a lot of men out there, women out there too, kids out there that just don't want to talk about it. They don't know how to talk about it. But I love the wellness, and it's almost like it's just a continual, gradual process of just continuing to work towards a goal, which is being able to manage it better. I don't know that it ever goes away, like I said, but just managing it better.
Yeah, I think, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, if that's your four things, I mean, you got to manage them all. You get, Kate Galley's watching, but she did an experience in her group, and she talked about like her midweek pit stop. She talked about it, race car, NASCAR. And she talked about like being in the pit stop and having your tires balanced, and you're looking for that balance in life, and I thought that was a great analogy that she used, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually for her. And for others, you need all four, but when one gets out of whack, man, it can throw the whole car out of whack, and that's so true. Doc, you and I can come at this from, and Eugene can come at this from a veteran standpoint. So something that you and I have spent a lot of time talking about is, PTSD, moral injury. And I think this is something I'm really excited about addressing in here for our fellow veterans. And I always want to throw this disclaimer out there. Sometimes, when you use the term PTSD, we as veterans, we claim it like we own it, but it doesn't just matter. Civilians can, the civilians, they can have PTSD just like
Us
we
normal
can.
people.
Yeah,
Right.
Y'all are the heroes. So yeah, you guys.
Just me and you, Josh. Just me
me
and you.
and you. Yeah,
Yeah, those normal
The
people,
mortals,
they
us
can
mortals.
deal with
Us
PTSD.
mortals.
But talk about that, mental wellness from your standpoint, and and as a nurse, as a medical professional as well.
So, first of all, I'm a huge believer in prevention. And mental wellness is exactly that. It's preventing going down the road where it's too late almost, if you will, right? Where you feel like you don't have a point of return. So I don't like the term, but I like it, if that makes sense, because of the negative connotations associated with mental health. Everybody always looks negatively upon that, but it's just like look at it as exercise in your brain, like you would your muscles, right? You have to stretch, you have to prepare to work out, and then you exercise. So that's what we need to do with our brains as well. But along those lines, I really, really enjoyed the peer-to-peer counseling with the veterans, because like you always say, Matt, you're not alone. And there is somebody there that is going through or has gone through exactly what you're going through. Maybe not exactly, but close enough to where you're not alone. And so just talking to a friend, to a battle buddy, whatever the case may be, takes away that negative connotation of, no, I have to go to therapy, I have to do this, I have to do that. No, talk.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do. We need to talk.
Yeah. And you know what? You're wearing our Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy shirt that you got on right there. And everybody that's listened to me for a while knows that July 9th of 2001 is a big day for me. That's when I lost Clark Beatty. And I'll tell you, it was 2020. It was during COVID, coming out of COVID. I was in, they had a baseball tournament. It was down in Charleston. It was a Wounded Warrior thing. I went and I was there. And there's actually an interview of me and Greg Wilson. And we're talking about 2020. This happened in 2001. And do you know that was the first July 9th that I didn't have such a hard time and really break down and cry? And the reason why is because I was with my peers, right? I was there. I was umpiring with my other umpires. I was with other people that had been through and gone through what I had gone through, and actually did an interview and talked about it with Greg that day. And it was like therapeutic to me. And since that day, I still, it's just a different feeling, now moving forward from that because of that peer to peer, and all that.
Well, I think Matt, to follow up on that, I think a lot of things that we go through when it comes to mental health, you talk about divorce, you talk about parenting, you talk about dating, you talk about, all of those things, marriage, all of those things. I think when you're in that peer-to-peer group, like if I was to call, if I call you, I call Eugene, call Jeff, call Doc, we're going to talk about man stuff. I could talk to somebody that I don't necessarily trust per se, and I can kind of give them a little bit of tidbit of information, and you're emotional because I think you want to give that to them. You don't trust them maybe enough, in that to kind of handle it or to give you that, unbiased, opinion. So when it talks to you, if I talk to you about it, I talk to Eugene, where there's trust there, where there's, hey, Josh, you were wrong in this, or, hey, I understand how you're feeling that. It's that we talk about all the time of being, you're not alone. You're not feeling like you're going through that alone. Yeah. You've got that peer-to-peer going, hey, man, I've been there, or, hey, I understand that comfortability. And I'm obviously glad for you that you were able to do that, because it was a tough time in your life, and being able to not talk about those things openly, because I think we all talk about them, but we get to a certain point in the conversation and you just have to cut it for your own self. When you can feel that comfort to be able to keep going until you finish the thought or able to fully open up, and you have somebody there that's to listen to you, I think that's a huge breakthrough and a huge piece of growth for sure.
Absolutely. 100%.
And I don't even think, I guess I should say it differently. It's not just being comfortable with somebody, like to open up with somebody. I mean, my wife's watching, she'll know I don't open up much, right? But when I do, it's because I know that, that person, or if I just made the example, my wife, she has my back on it, right? And she understands, right? And there's no judgment to it, right? Even if you're talking to some people that you're friends with, you still might feel like you're being sort of judged by what you're saying. So
Sure.
it's not just being comfortable around somebody. It's being just sort of real and knowing that they're not going to, or at least feeling like they're not going to judge you in some sort of way. And I think for most of the men, the boy or man friends that I've had throughout my entire life, that's a hard thing for them to do. It's hard for me to do. I mean, it's still hard for me to do. I don't feel like I have a lot of mental wellness, mental health type issues as they're sort of thrown out there. But I mean, it's hard. Like you said, Josh, you go through rough moments of your life every once in a while. Sometimes it's just hard to open up, right?
Well, but let's talk about this. I'll pose this question out for you. And it's not always about us personally, right? But it's about parenting. We're all parents on this call, And so we're trying to navigate this world of parenting. And a great question that we talked about for 30 minutes the other night is just social media, for example. How do you handle social media amongst our, parenting and our kids? And there's so many different thoughts on that. And I can sit here all day and talk about that, but that's still getting into the mental health and the mental wellness. Jeff, you and I talk about this all the time. We have, and Eugene, well, all of us have girls. All of us have girls on here, right? And so, watching a young lady navigate social media and the pressures of social media and the pressures of, there's so much that goes on with it. The fear of missing out when you see your friends doing stuff, or, trying to measure yourself up to other people and what they're doing and the vacations they're taking or how they're dressing or, oh, they're skinnier than me, and all these pressures that go on with it. Sitting there watching that, well, that's important for us as parents to understand and educate ourselves. So
I go through that on my social media.
Well, and I think, and I think, Doc, you were saying that to be, I think, funny, but being serious. Men have that too. The difference is we aren't put out there as much on the front of the magazines and all that stuff. We still have that. I think there's still, you get the men's fitness magazines or whatever. You're like, I didn't even know you could have that many abs. How does he have that many abs? But I think, especially, young, we all have daughters, like young women that are sitting there like, this is the size you're supposed to be. This is the amount of makeup, the clothes, the whatever. This is all the stuff you're supposed to be. And that part navigating it, I think as a father is sometimes difficult because we're kind of, to the most part, black and white. Like, don't listen to that. You don't need to be that. You look beautiful the way you are. And them not being able to come and talk to us maybe from a male's perspective, dad's perspective. That's more of a mom conversation that they can do a better job of that. But you get into, does mom deal with that? Does stepmom deal with that? Does friends deal with that? And I think it's just women have it. I think they get it more than that, but we do. Like Doc said, we get it. But man, parenting, social media, and obviously I'll jump in on this one because that's kind of what I would do. Is I think we all are trying to navigate it as adults, and that's tough enough. The comments that are said, and I still get them every once in a while where they affect me to a certain point of whether you talk about something you said, how you said it, what you look like, all of those things. And we can kind of filter that through as, us 40 somethings that are on here.
Thank you.
Yes. I don't know how old everybody is, but 40 something.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Doc will take in 20s. I forgot. Doc's in his 20s still, y'all. But I mean, if we had social, I can't imagine if
No.
I had social media
No.
at 13
Can't
like
either.
my son
Nope.
does. Not that I was doing anything to, get sure. And the times are different, but trying to navigate that as a 13-year-old who my son just has, what does he have? I think he just has Snapchat and for his teammates and all that stuff and text. But he can do YouTubes and Reels. But you see all that stuff at 13 and you try to parent and maneuver. It's just tough. We have a hard time doing it ourselves as adults. And the 13-year-old, you're talking for my son where there's a 30-year age difference between us. I'm like, man, there ain't no way. There's no way. And getting them out of that into real life. And we talk about it on my podcast too. And all of us have talked about it. Difference in showing up and being present. It's really hard for kids these days, as it is for us adults, to be present in situations because we always have that phone. I don't have my phone with me. I'll be lying if I said it wasn't killing me right now, but it's over there. But that's the way our kids are. That's the way they're brainwashed or the way they're wired right now. It's like, I always got to have this, or I got to snap it, or I have to text it out there. It's creating it's a huge issue.
Yeah, but here's the deal, and I want to just throw this out there. It ain't going away. Phones are here.
Nope.
It's how they communicate, and I think that's the problem. Sometimes parents are going to go, "Hey, I'm going to protect these kids. I'm going to take that phone away. They're not going to have it." Well, you're affecting the way these kids communicate. So devil's advocate, y'all go at that. What's your thoughts, Eugene?
We just put parental controls on all of that good stuff, and we just try to monitor it as best we can and encourage them to make good decisions and teach them right from wrong. But yeah, I agree. It's here to stay. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle. I just think we need to be educating our kids as far as the dangers and just try to approach it with a bit of pace.
Part of educating your kids is you're right. Part of educating your kids is educating yourself.
Yeah. It's so prevalent, and I don't think we wanted to, or we didn't really know where it was going to go, but we don't want to sabotage this whole conversation around social media and teens. But I'll just give you a quick example in terms of teaching our kids to do the right thing and leadership, and Renee mentioned that, and so. Just a quick example. So in my classroom and in our school, I don't let them have phones. They have to either put it in their bag and they have to put it in a little pouch. But we have 90-minute classes. So the thing I told them is at the beginning of the year, like, hey, look, it was different from last year. I said, last 5 minutes of class, if you guys are working, you can go check your phones, because it is how they communicate. Like, whether we like it or we don't like it, it's how they communicate. I mean, I know of kids that are dating and they've actually only seen each other on FaceTime, right? But they're dating as teenagers, so it's how they do it. It's strange to us, but it's how they do it. So anyway, last week, the week before exams, I said, look, no phones this week. Last 5 minutes, no phones. And the first day, you would have thought I was burning their bags and throwing. And they were like, what are we going to do? And so I just go talk to each other, and they stared at me like, well, what are you talking about?
What?
By Wednesday, they weren't like pawing at their bag or at the pouch. And by Thursday, Friday, they were just sitting there. Actually, a couple of kids grabbed the deck of cards I have, and they were playing some cards, and they did it today after their exam. So my whole point of that is, we just sort of show them that there's some other things that you can do for a little time being. It doesn't have to be all the time, right? Just for a time being. And on top of that, that mental wellness, like what Josh, you're sort of talking about, that slow progression all the way through their life, just makes them a little happy, makes them talk to each other. So, and you guys are right. As adults, we're the same.
Because if you wanted to talk to a girl back in the day, how'd you do it? You wrote a letter all through class, didn't pay attention to anything that was going on. You folded it like a paper football and you handed it to her.
Yes or no, baby.
No.
Yes or no.
Yes.
Or you had to, God forbid, you had to call, right? You had to call. Like if
dad,
I'm call, like I'll use Matt's example, because Matt, like, hey, Mr. Curran, could I speak to Megan?
Man.
Like, who is this? Like, can y'all imagine? Like, I can't even imagine my son doing that now, or my daughter. Like, that was like, that's another level. You tell kids that there was no texting, there was no cell phones, you had to call. And then it's like, and I joked about the other day, like, because then Mr. Curran is on the other phone. He's listening because Megan's got the other phone in the other room. Like, Dad, I got it.
I got it. Like that's what we had to do.
Yeah,
Now
all
you don't even
while
have to ask for their
attached-
phone number.
all while attached to a cord.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you couldn't leave that confined area. It's not like you could walk around.
yeah.
Get that 40-foot cord.
Man,
it's
how do we
different.
do
It's
it?
different.
Holy
I don't know.
smokes.
I don't know how we did it. But here's the point. We think sometimes, oh, they'll never, we survived. We did. We survived. We made it, And so we have to Eugene's point, we have to give our kids, and then we can move past kids, but we have to respect their, set boundaries, respect the boundaries, but we have to give them some latitude. And I think that's where parents get in trouble. And that's what we'll be talking about when we do podcasts on parenting. But you have to give them the boundaries to go out there and make their own mistakes and fall down and skin their knee and get back up and continue to go. Because we did, because we left in the morning and came back at night. And, we all are
And it
sitting
was
here.
dark outside.
Yeah. But you know what? Let me transition that. We survived. I'll throw this out to you. You hear people make fun of the pictures of the hose. This was our water bottle back in the day, or why did everybody wear bike helmets and everything now and all that? We didn't wear bike helmets. Well, some people didn't survive, right? There are instances of those things being bad for some people, so that's why they're one of the reasons they're kind of around today. Well, same with mental wellness, right? There are kids got bullied back in the day. We got bullied back in the day.
Yep.
And some of those kids didn't make it out tougher, right?
Yep.
Some of us, these adults. So although I tend to lean more towards we survived argument, there's always that backside of it, right?
But that
there's always
goes
the
back to
things you
mental
don't hear
wellness,
about.
Jeff. That
Exactly,
goes back
that's
to
what I'm
mental
saying.
wellness. That goes back
Yeah.
to the whole argument we're making here.
Yeah.
It's let's give people the tools that they need
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
deal with what they need to deal with, whatever area of life
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's where we're missing the mark. And I think I've had a couple of calls, and we'll talk about Patty Moeller coming on later next, as one of the special guests coming forward. But she said to me one day, we had a call, and she said, I think we've swung too far to the left or the opposite direction. There was no in between.
There was no middle. It just
There was no middle. The pendulum swung. And when the pendulum swung, we're like, okay, put them in the bubble. Let's protect them. And there has to be that middle ground. You're right. There are certain things that, dangers, or certain things that we wouldn't let our kids do. Certain things that we wouldn't do anymore.
Right.
But, we live and we learn, and that's part of life.
Well, that's a big part of life.
And I think it's about what we're talking through the wellness piece is just being able to talk through that. I mean, we all grew up again where, we rode in the back of the truck. We didn't no seat belts, no booster seat, and then the child seat and the front seat, back seat. We didn't have all those things, but we also weren't taught to some of us talk through emotions and, hey, this is how I feel. Hey, can you help me with this? Because it was looked at as a negative. We're rub some dirt on it and go.
Yep.
The piece now you have to figure out you're weak, right? Now we have to figure out, hey, how do we navigate this social media? How do we navigate all the other things that we grew up with too? Sports, tough parents, lenient parents, whatever, social media, the news, all of those things that are now so instant to all of us. And how do we allow the kids to have a voice, have an open space to share with us and not feel like they're having to push and hide all those things, which we all had to do.
Well, it's okay to be okay, right? To not be okay, like you talk about. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay for us as men to come in here and communicate when something's wrong. It's okay for us as veterans to communicate and talk amongst our peers about what we're going through, what we're feeling. You go back really, if you want to be honest with you go back pre 9/11, you didn't talk about PTSD. You didn't talk about any of that stuff. You sucked it up and you drove on if you were a veteran.
Well, and I was going to ask you that.
Awakening. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
going to ask you guys that is what was the attitude in the military? You guys always bring up military examples. What was the attitude in the military when you were in it? And I know you guys aren't in it anymore, but you're certainly not away from it. What is the attitude and what is the message now in the military with mental health and wellness?
Who wants to take that one?
I'll take that. Yeah, mental wellness. Go ahead, Eugene.
Go ahead, Doc.
No, you go.
Ahead.
No, you go. No, you go.
All right, new topic.
All right, I'll go.
I'll take it. Yeah. So basically, mental wellness is a huge push in the military nowadays, big time, especially after, like Matt was saying, after 9/11. But prior to that, you were considered weak, you were considered damaged goods, and you were drummed out and gotten rid of. You were essentially the shitbird, if you will. You got all the crap assignments. You were not trusted. And that's a horrible, horrible way for those individuals to have been treated, because, let's face it, it's not really a mental illness. It's a condition that happened to a person. So it's not through anyone's fault at all. And to be treated like you're a third, fourth class citizen, when you acquired this condition while serving your country is
Right.
almost criminal, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Eugene?
Yeah, I would agree with what Doc said. Times certainly have changed, but I feel as though, we've to the point of the pendulum swinging so greatly is that people, it's almost like they're being infected with something that they didn't know that they had. Like, is there something wrong with me? We keep drilling this mental wellness problem thing in my head that we have this whole generation of folks that are being coddled, and people are trying to discover old pains and old wounds, and there's a reason why we're making this push, because people need to be well, but we got to keep giving them the tools to be well. And so I think having this podcast and having different guests on and talking about different strategies are very, very important to people, because you run into a lot of people who are not as well as they should be.
Yeah, I'll make two points to that, and they're separate points on the veteran thing. That's why me and my my daughter are writing a book right now that has to do with PTSD and moral injury, but it relates my wife's grandfather, who fought in World War II, who did not talk about what he went through until I was around in the late 1990s. Did not talk about it. So think about that. 50 some years. Did not talk about it. So that's going to address these issues and talk about that. Now, on the other topic that you're talking about is that I have conversations with kids, and going back to kids, but just people in general as well. But I'll say, I'm going to use the example of kids, but it's still adults the same. And I'll say, okay, what's going on? Well, I'm feeling extreme anxiety. I'm feeling extreme stress. Well, what are you stressed about? Well, this week I have 2 exams. Well, that's damn stressful. Let's be honest, right? That doesn't mean you have a mental health problem. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. That's just life. So when you're talking to some of the adults and when you're talking to some of the kids, it is just, they think that the stresses and the pressures that they have on them right now means they have an issue because they're stressed out. I had the best conversation with Megan coming home. She's at Georgetown. Everybody knows, in medical school. We're coming home from Georgetown. We're driving. And she told me, she said, you know what? I think I figured it out, because medical school is stressful. And she said, it doesn't mean anything's wrong with me. And it was a lot longer conversation with that.
Yeah.
But we really got into talking about it. And she goes, I think back to college when I would call you when it was exam time and I was so stressed out. You talked me off the ledge and you tell me it's okay. And then I'd finish the exams and all the pressure would leave my shoulders and I would be okay. And she goes, so now, again, to Josh's thing, it's okay not to be okay. Guess what? Life is stressful.
Well, let us not forget
that day.
Let us not forget that stress can be healthy. We need a certain amount of stress in our life.
Yeah.
Right. Well, some of us don't. Some of us, and I would thrive off of, in different jobs, different situations. Some people just thrive off of stress. We create our own stress. We create this rigid schedule, and you're like, man, I can only function in this high stress environment. And then you have other people like Megan, or not Megan, but teenagers. They're like, hey, I'm super stressed out. Like, something's wrong with me. I can't handle this. No, life just sucks sometimes. And life is freaking hard sometimes, and it's always been hard. But the mental health piece is wellness and health piece is a conversation. So it's automatically like, oh crap, I'm stressed. I shouldn't be stressed, even though I'm taking, I'm in medical school, one of the top schools in the country. I shouldn't be stressed, but something's wrong with me. It shouldn't be like that. And I think that's that fine balance of, especially as a parent talking to kids or adolescents, whatever that is, like, hey, life is just tough. And it's okay to be tough. It doesn't mean something's wrong. But we as adults get that too. Some of us are like, I'm sure I've called Matt and Eugene, I don't know, Jeff on a podcast or something. Y'all be like, what the heck's wrong with him? Like it's just this overwhelming thing. And you're like, oh my gosh, like I can't handle it like I used to. Why can't I not handle it? Is something wrong with me? Do I need to go talk to my therapist again? Do I need to take, whatever that is? And you're like, no, Josh, or no, Matt, or whatever. Like, it's just tough.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you need to go out and just, balls to the wall and let's start going and getting all this extra mental wealth or mental wellness, health.
Wow.
Wow, that was a lot.
Something's wrong with Josh.
Mental healthness, like whatever. But life is just difficult, and sometimes that's okay, and sometimes we just have to figure out how to navigate through it.
We just got a new name for the community. We're going to call it mental healthness.
Mental healthness. Mental healthness. Listen, y'all, don't go to mental healthness.
To Josh's point, that's what I really love about the peer-to-peer counseling, because you go to a therapist and they're just going to be there as your therapist, but sometimes that peer of yours and give you that tough love that you may need, that say exactly that. Hey, life is hard and you're just going through it right now.
Yeah.
Suck it up.
It's okay.
But also to that same point, taking it all the way back to the mental healthness community that we're building here.
Hold on, I want to open that one. I'll talk to that one all day.
Well, no, I'm taking it all the way back to, you just said peer-to-peer, Doc. That's probably the biggest part of the opening up this community. And then I'm looking at all the comments here just from the stream on the side here. And man, there's some great comments. And,
well, let's think
it's it's a mirror of what's going to be in that community, is just people saying and helping and talking and discussing. And I went through this and it's okay. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, Jeff, because here's one of the big reasons why I decided that, okay, it's time to reopen this community and focus on this. Because we get on our core team calls and what takes over? If somebody opens up a topic about this mental wellness, it takes over the rest of the conversation. That's what we talk about.
Yeah.
And we've done a lot of podcasts so far, right? Over the last couple of months. Have we ever had this many comments that are coming in? No. So this is at the forefront. But that's one of the things about Convene Communities. That's one of the things about the platform, is you can go in there, you can put a comment about life or about what's going on, and guess what's going to happen? You're going to realize right what you just said, Doc, is that you're not alone. Other people are going to say, hey, I've gone through that. Other people are going to say, I've been through that and I came out the other side and this is how I did it. Or, hey, I'm going through that. Or, I'm following this comment. I'm a part of this conversation. And that's what we want. We want those discussion boards inside of the communities to really open up. And I think what you're going to see, and we saw Josh in your community, I think what you're going to see is when these topics hit those discussion boards, either as yourself or anonymously, you're going to see the topics be wide open, but you're also going to see you're not alone, to your point, Doc.
And you should get realness. You're not going to see just general comments. It can be real comments. Yeah.
Well,
because you don't have to do it as yourself, right?
Right. You could be anonymous. You could be anonymous in the comment. Well, and I think that's the thing too. And I was on, I don't know when I was on, TikTok asked me to do a thing on mental health day, mental health awareness day. And and I love the fact that Convene has communities in there, because my conversation for when I was on, and I don't know how many hundreds of people were on there, was about community. You can do the same thing in any platform, but Convene is a little bit different, because you're going to get all of those people. We want to help. You put something like that out on social media, like if I post it, you can kind of post it as social media, or you kind of post it as anonymously if your handle isn't your name. So I can't really post it anonymously on any topic, but
You can go out there and literally post it on any blog, any social media platform, whatever. If no one knows it's you, you can still do that. And you got that support 24/7. So if you're not a part of Convene, you should be. But if you're in these other communities, that's the beauty of being in a social media community, is you can get help for people to do that. You're just not alone. You're not alone. I've gone through this. I've done this through, and it just, as you said, it snowballs with the help.
And one of the things different for the platform is, Josh, you do that thing, you do that call, and where does that call go after that? Where's all that advice go?
We can go experiences, baby.
Yeah, we can go
experiences.
We can go that board is still there, So again, really pretty cool. Amy says, the gift of anonymity is gold when it comes to mental wellness. Listen, I can go into, as a creator and founder of Convene, I can go in there and I can put a post in there and nobody knows if it's me. Nobody. Right. And so I'm not, if I say, hey, I'm dealing with this with my kids, people aren't going, well, dang, what's wrong with Braden, Megan, and Lainey,
Right.
Y'all don't know.
And I'm going to go right to these last three comments. So Amy says the gift of anonymity is gold, like you just said. Lisa agrees, and then says there's no bullying in Convene communities. Well, and we've talked about it before, but the I am from experience. And there's what, over 100 different responses now, and a lot of them are teens, and from either my classes or their teams. But Matt, remember the kids that took the experience of who they were and all the sort of stuff that they've experienced. They've all gone to school together since they were kindergartners. And the fact that they could open up anonymously and even have people that they've known in a small school community for 8, 9, 10 years, and they opened up like that, and then they learned from each other.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw it firsthand how great it was in those kids.
Yeah, what Jeff is talking about, they came in and answered the question about the experiences written by Lainey, and the topic is I am from, but it's not like I am from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. No, it's where she's from. What makes Lainey who she is? And then the question is, don't tell me who you are or where you're from. Tell me who you are and
give me your experiences.
Give me your experiences.
What have you gone through? Yeah.
And so the kids started writing, and these answers are anonymous, and they're phenomenal. But what's even more amazing is they go to the lesson learned, and then again, sticking on the term, people, their lesson learned is it's okay to be me. It's okay to not be okay. Those are the types of answers that you're getting there. And you're seeing that those relationships,
and it strengthened their mental wellness, right? Some of these, and I told you about the one young lady that came up and told me directly that. I mean, she just had this huge relief lifted off her shoulder because she could at least put it out there, knowing that nobody was going to know who it was, any of her peers. And I mean, she's a different person from that day.
Yeah, one day you're in there and you said one of the kids is going back and reading the answers, in school on their own later, just on their own. And that's the whole
scrolling back through.
Beautiful. Scrolling back through.
I think that's going to happen in this community.
Well, as I say, I think that's the beautiful part of Convene and the experiences and the discussion boards and all of that. Someone may be able to go in there, and they do, and find the answer to what they're going through, or they can see, hey, I'm not alone. They can reach out anonymously. They can reach out, hey, Eugene, I saw your comment on X, Y, and Z. Hey, can you tell me about that? There's this community connection there of where you don't necessarily have to put yourself out there and put yourself in the mix. If you're not comfortable doing that, you can see the comments of everybody else, and you can interact if you want to. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. The last sentence there by Lisa is perfect. Convene is a safe place for that, And again, it is, if I want to go in there as men and dads, we can talk, and it's us, it's men, it's dads. We can be open and honest. If I want to go in there as veterans, I can talk and I can get that peer-to-peer support. That's to Doc's point. That's what it alludes to.
Look at the first sentence she wrote at the very end of it. When you're a kid, you think you're the only one going through the things you're going through.
Heck, when
so
you're
do adults. So do adults. Yeah.
We think that too.
Yep.
Yeah. It's life's not easy. I mean, let's be honest with you. We and you go through different stages of life. Eugene and I have talked about this here recently, and some of you, may go through it or may not. But well, Jeff, you as well, and I'm not sure where you stand, but my parents are aging. you know? And that's a hard thing to sit there and watch. And it's a growth process for me going through this. And Eugene and I were just having the conversation the other day. But yeah, it's there's certain things that I don't know what I don't know. I haven't gone through things like this before. And
Mhm.
so again, it's being able to lean on each other and talk about that. Well, that's still mental wellness. That's still what this community can do. Talking about dealing with tough situations in life, and these are tough situations in life. And I think that's important. Eugene, what do you
I'd
think
like
about that? Oh, go ahead, Doc. Or Eugene, you're Doc.
I just like to highlight the fact that it's important to keep in mind that when we're going through and we're doing this show in the future, that we need to remain positive and we need to work on getting the negativity out of our lives. And sounds easy to say, but trust me, I struggle with it every day.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. What were you going to say, Eugene?
I was just really listening and then reflecting on how things are different from what they were many, many years ago when you didn't have all of this social media, when people were, working from the house, milking cows and all the rest of it. They're moving across west where they're doing all of these things, but they didn't have a way just to be able to reach out and get all of this help. And so I think that because we're so connected in this day and age, it is important for people to learn from other people's experiences for what gets them through it. Because sometimes I wonder, you guys, how you guys are not getting through it, but my experiences are certainly very, very different from yours. But the principles and some of the journeys are the same. And they've got to use this connected opportunity to learn from others and then put those things into practice that actually work. So at least
Yeah,
for some of us. So it's
yeah.
interesting.
I think it is interesting, and again, that's why we want to bring this community and grow this community. And it's not one person's community; it's all of our community. That's really the key. Is that we all have the different topics. Can we bring people into this? And it's I would tell you, to me, as a counselor, it's one of the top subjects in America today, hands down,
Mhm.
hands down. It's one of the best things that we could possibly do inside of Convene, in my
Matt,
mind.
wow, that was Trump. You channeled Trump there.
Don't
That
do
was
it.
huge.
Huge. Yeah, but I think in the world we live in too, we all want instant gratification. So
Yeah.
you can get instant gratification with people being able to help out with that. But mental health, mental wellness, mental healthness, any of that stuff is not that is not an instant fix. It's going to take work. Just like life takes work, parenting takes work, relationships take work. Mental wellness is going to take work too. Instantly, you can get the help, you can get the results, and you can get the feedback, and you can get all those things. But I don't know which one of y'all said it. Eugene, I think of getting that advice back and putting those things into practice that have helped others or can help you. It's going to take some work, and a lot of people don't want to put in the
Look,
work. They need
every
to.
day is not great. Every day is not great. Again, I think I'm one of the most positive people on the face of this earth. My cup is always half full, right? It just really is. However, I do have the days where I'm like, oh, down and up and down. And Jeff and I've had this conversation. Being a pilot sounds like the best thing in the world. It's wonderful. You fly a jet. How could you not, right? But I honestly think that sitting in this chair and working with people is what gives me my high in life. It's what I love to do. And so, yeah, midlife crisis. That's what Matt's going through right now.
Where's your convertible?
Anybody else going through the midlife
Coming
crisis?
soon to a Convene community near you.
Twice.
Yeah. Hey,
Life.
what
I've been
tools
through
do
it
you guys
twice.
look? I got a question here. What tools do you guys use to help you with your mental wellness?
Oh, hold on. Wait a minute. What? Oh, I thought he was grabbing something.
No,
Yeah,
I'll
just
go.
he ain't doing that.
I mean, one of the ones I use that I've used for, over 2 years is I have a therapist that I meet with every 2 weeks. That helps. I have you gentlemen that are on this phone that I reach out to from time to time. Prayer, church. I've learned through my therapist that it's okay to be, I've gotten comfortable to be by myself. That was a huge thing for me in my mental health struggle, if you will, is if I didn't have something going on or no one was around, i.e. dating, married, kids, job. If I was by myself, I was alone, but I felt lonely. There's a difference. So I've gotten a lot of those things too. Laughter, true. I see that in the comment, like laughter. Yeah. Laughter, humor, all that stuff. But social media has been an outlet for me in my mental health because I use that as an outlet for myself. Yeah. A lot of the things I've gone through, I find the quote, see the quote, have said the quote, and it helps other people. And Matt, you said it, sit in this chair or posting stuff online or being able to, act and look sad or look happy. Most of it's looking sad because I'm generally pretty happy anyway, but being able to have people say, hey, I needed that today. That fills my cup and helps obviously with my own mental health to go, hey, I just posted that, or I just sent that out and somebody said, hey, you don't know how much I needed that today. That helps me on my end for sure.
Yeah. Doc?
I think you go ahead. No, I was going to say, Josh, I think you do a great job with what you do. I tell you that all the time, although I would argue that I don't know if you're mentally well while I'm watching you do some of that. I often say, you need help.
Yeah, I always know that I tripped Eugene up or I've got to Eugene, and I know he's probably dying laughing when the comment is, you need help.
You need help.
I know I get Eugene then.
Yeah, and I'm serious. But what helps me, and this doesn't have to be a religious thing, it is your belief system. If I said to you, like my mother said to me, sweetheart, if you think you have it bad, walk a mile in someone else's shoes. So if you believe that people have it more difficult than you around the globe, there are those that have it more difficult than you, then you take comfort and solace, not in their struggle, but that you too can get through it. And if you figure out some of those strategies that have allowed other people to get through it, then that will help you along the way to steady you. But on the spiritual front, there are a bazillion quotes in the Bible from, Jesus saying, oh, ye of little faith, and he talks about that the Lord takes care of, the lilies in the field and the animals and all the rest of it. And he talks about, are you not more important than they are? And if you believe that, belief again, then that should steady you through your life. And you've got to get through things. So things that help me is how I believe and how I tinker in my brain and in my spirit to be able to march through this life with confidence and strength. And no matter what comes my way, like my dad is in ICU, two strokes in the front part of his brain. He's been in the hospital for a little bit. No matter what happens, I'm not the first person to lose a father or a mother or a brother or a sister. You've got to get through stuff. And I think where we're at from a mental wellness standpoint, they just don't know the strategies or they can't figure it out. So we've got to help them figure it out with platforms like this.
Mm-hmm. Doc?
Well, Lisa stole my thunder, but yeah, I use humor a lot to deal and to cope. I'm a big outdoors guy, so anytime I can get out camping or hunting, fishing, whatever, that always seems to help recharge the batteries, if you will, and helps me move on. But I'm not perfect. I struggle too, and I there are times I have to reach out to my therapist or to you guys, but.
Absolutely.
I'm happy that I have got to the point where I know that, and I do reach out now. As before, I never would.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff?
Well, it's interesting listening to the first three guys, because Josh, you talked about sort of it's okay to be alone, or just kind of being with yourself. Doc, you talk about being outdoors in nature and camping, and Eugene, the belief system. And I've never really thought about this sort of thing consciously anyway, but just hearing the three of you, essentially, if I'm stressed or upset or whatever, my we used to joke with my wife that she would purposely make me mad because then I'd clean the house because I just go start cleaning something, right? Or I'd go out in the yard and mow the yard or do some yard work. So for me, it's some sort of physical activity, exercise. Plus, I'm alone and I can think. When I ran, I used to love running just for the fact I could be in my own head and think about things, And then now it's more being outside and also watching my daughters, play sports and go through life. And so I'm sure there's other coping mechanisms, if you will, that I use, but I think just a lot of it is that. And again, I never really thought about it from a just how am I going to get through this? It's just that it's almost what Eugene you just said. I just got through it,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes I would talk to my parents, or sometimes I would talk to my wife, or sometimes I'll talk to my friends, but what do I need in the moment, I guess, is probably the biggest part, and I'm conscious of that.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's faith, family, for sure, both, and I extend that to extended family, which is you guys and Convene people that are in Convene. This I get a lot out of being here. I get a lot out of being on calls and talking to my fellow friends. I'm a people person, so people drive me. People give me a lot. I also know, like Eugene's talking about, I also know that I'm not the first one to go through it, and I'm going to have very, very bad days, and I'm going to have things that are struggle. But guess what? Tomorrow is a different day. I don't get that down. I know that. I mean, I could lose everything today, and I'm going to rebuild it tomorrow. That's just the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Life's not easy. Life's not easy, and that's like some of the message that I want to, really convey in this community. That we can do it together. We can support each other. We can have peer to peer. We can give people the tools that they need inside of this. Now, does that mean that the five of us are going to give them the tools? No. We have a lot of great people who bring a lot to the table. So the purpose of this podcast is going to be to bring us on here, some of the members of Convene, every time the podcast goes on. But we're also going to go find those experts. We're going to, bring Patty Moeller on, a lady that we all love, who's been around for a while, who's a mental health counselor, who's written a book, Renew and Restore, and let her talk about some stuff. I had a great call with a gentleman, me and Lisa Herring, named Fred, this week. He's written a book on PTSD and moral injury, So for my fellow veteran friends, that's a key thing that we can come and bring in as a tool and offer them. So that's just to name a few. I've interviewed so many people, and like I said at the beginning, I used to get asked if this is a mental health site. I've interviewed people who are expert on teen suicide. I've interviewed people who have been through drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and come out the other side. So those are all things that play into this community. And it's not just about people where on the Convene Community podcast is about people who are doing things in Convene. This is also about going outside. Let's go outside. Let's find the resources and let's bring them back in and interview them and make them a contributor to what we're trying to do here and really grow this community to something special. And I think it could be one of the most special communities that we have inside of Convene because, that's the purpose, Convene communities, real life, real people, real experience. It's a platform where the purpose, let's make a difference in people's lives. And that's that's it. Right here. Why should people join the mental wellness community? And it's just that. And
This podcast.
I'll let y'all jump in on that thing. For me, it's that I think we can build a community of resources. I think we can build a community of peer to peer counseling and not just counsel, but peer to peer, mentorship and working with each other to say, hey, you're not alone. You're not alone in what you're going through. We got this. So, y'all got any other thoughts on that before we get ready?
I would just say that we've all different ages, different backgrounds, different parts of the country, different experiences, jobs, all of that does is just help us cope with our own self and our own how we've been able to get to this point. But once you put all of those experiences together and you put all of the good people inside of Convene and the people you're going to bring in from outside of Convene and see it from a different perspective, sometimes people just need to see it from a different perspective. It's like, I need to see it from Eugene's lens. And I think there's a book out there. It's the men and women, like men see things from a blue lens and women see it from a pink lens. Well, we all see it from a different lens. That's every situation. We see it from a different lens because we've either gone through that or we're close to somebody that's gone through that. And how did we, the good and the bad, how do we, don't do this, but hey, this actually worked for me. So I think just the amount of
Here it is. You know what this is? And I like to talk about it like this, but it's all of us. If we could be co-located right now at the restaurant, sitting around the table right now, and I look at y'all and I said, hey, any of y'all ever been through this? And if you have, how would you handle it? And how are you going to answer that? How are you going to answer that question to me?
Yep.
Your life experience, the things
I'm gonna tell you something. This is what I've been through.
Do this because this worked with our kids, or don't do this because we screwed it up big time.
Yeah.
As long as we can be at PF Chang's.
Yeah, that's right. Well, if you're going to climb up on the horse,
I was going to say, you're going to get hurt.
Exactly. All right.
No
hey,
comment.
To me, this has been a great podcast. This has been fun. This is what this is all about. This is what we're going to go forward and do in 2024. Again, we're going to bring on guests. If you have a guest, if you have somebody that you think would be great, let me know. Shoot them over to us. If somebody works in the field of mental wellness or somebody brings something to the table, let us know. We want special guests. We want to bring on as many people. We want them to come and be a part of the community, but that's not a prerequisite. So yeah, let's grow this community together. As always, the donate button up in the upper left-hand corner, hit that. And Doc does this out of the goodness of his heart. He's doing something great for us by producing this show. And so, yeah, throw a little dollar or two at him. It'd be wonderful, Hey, anything else y'all got? Anybody want to have the closing part? The closing shot?
No.
I'd just say come and join it. The question, why should you join? It was just this podcast. I mean, think of all the topics we just covered, and we didn't cover them all. And think of all the ages we spoke about. It affects everybody of every age in different ways, positive, negative, and that it's what the community is going to be all about.
That's right. And that's the way that Doc is a St. Louis rock star.
I will say that although we've covered that you are not alone, there will be times that you can't do it all on your own. So that's a reason in and of itself to join this community.
True.
Appreciate that. No, not a better way to end it than saying that. Join it because we're all here for you. That's what we're here to do at Convene Communities. Everybody have a good night. Thanks for being on, guys. As always, it's been wonderful, and I look forward to the next one.
See you guys.